What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about when is stock not really stock. So the last video I put up, it caused quite a stir about the Mission Impossible.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to go and explain the changes that's being made to this engine project, which we are going to rename. I don't know what it's going to be called. We're going to see. But the parameters that Tony put out and talk about why that's impossible based off of the literal terms that was being used.
You know, I'm just thinking about Tony's point of view here, right? And it really would have helped a lot had the three of us had more time to sit down and beat out these details.
Right.
Right. And, you know, he does make some points, and I think some of the blame can be put squarely on my shoulders because I tend to run away with products or projects. Now you know this is true, right? If you can make a simple one work well, we'll make a slightly more complicated one work much better. That's where I'm drawn to it.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And you, over the years, Andy, I'm sure you've seen that. David, why don't you just do the simple job here?
Well, the thing about it is, the automotive community out there, I believe, lives in their little respective boxes.
Yeah.
Well, working with...
No, let's get that right. Their little respective garages.
Right, garages. But one of the things that I realized working with you is once you get out of the box and discover the entire world, putting yourself back in a little box becomes almost impossible.
That's a good way to describe it. Yes.
You know, maybe if we just had a bigger box.
So here, I'll tell you one of the problems we have, Andy. We both have a basket load of ideas.
Yeah.
And what happens is one of us encourages the other and back and forth, and before you know it, that simple making a cup of coffee is now a grand party in a stadium.
The whole purpose of this video is to talk about the definition of stock. And if there's probably...
Or stock replacement.
Or stock replacement.
Eligible for stock replacement, yeah.
So the word stock has probably been one of the most contentious words in hot rodding for 75 years. The reason for that is you have hot rodders trying to build cars where they can race with other cars that are competitive, but not one have an advantage.
Yeah, they need the compatible cars.
The compatible cars.
Yes.
And so sanctioning bodies throughout the years have put limitations on that stock word, and it's caused people to have to twist rules, bend rules, think outside of that box I was talking about. And the problem with Mission Impossible, David spent an enormous amount of time doing this to these connecting rods. And it was when he was about halfway through, I realized this is not the best way to go. And I'll tell you the reason why.
But it's still a way they could go.
It's still a way they could go.
We've shown them how to do it.
Right.
And I think the point you made earlier was a 6.2-inch odd rod like this delivers the same power as a 6.2-inch rod like that. They're similar weight. The center-to-center distance is the same. So, for me, this would have been a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
I spent an enormous amount of time doing these.
Right.
I've shown people how to do them. If they want to do them, fine. They know how to do them.
Right.
But we're going to go with this because A, it's cheaper for me to do by a long shot. And B, this rod will take 1,800 RPM more than that one.
Well, me, the assembler of this engine, you get into this thing called common sense, money, and what's practical. Okay, I'm going to call it the tripod. Common sense, money, and practical. So we already know that this is a 6.123 inch rod length, center to center, from here to here. When you combine that with a stock 318 piston, and this is one of the pistons that he brought, in a 318, typically that puts the piston anywhere from 40 thousandths to 120 thousandths in the hole, depending on which engine you're working with. So, there's the word compression. Now, there's 5 ways to obtain compression in an engine, okay? I can either deck the cylinder head to remove volume. I can deck the block. I can increase the compression height of the piston here. I can
increase the bore size.
Increase the bore size.
Increase the stroke.
Or I can put a longer
rod in it. 6 ways.
6 ways. With that being said, there's disadvantages, and this is where I'm getting into the common sense part of why I decided there's 2 variants that's going to take place in the engine that we're building that's different from Tony's. Maybe 4. Connecting rods, pistons, the camshaft slightly, and valve springs, as far as what I see as of now. But going back to the common sense part, now if I remove an excessive amount of material on the deck, surfaces of the head or the block, that creates other issues. One being push rod length and intake selection, and getting intakes cut to fit and putting this puzzle piece together. Does that make sense? So with that being said, it's not really practical to do an excessive amount of machining of the deck surfaces to get where we need compression wise. Okay, going back to the connecting rod. So this is a 6.123 inch center to center rod. If we put a 6.2 inch center to center connecting rod in it, guess what? We have just cured
75 thousandths further up.
That's right. We haven't changed the piston in order to do that. This is actually a nice piston. It's an Icon piston that's a direct stock replacement forged piston for a 318. Has stock compression height, so on and so forth. Stock pin bore.
Good for a bunch of horsepower, including nitrous.
Yeah. So going back to the word stock, you'll notice this has a very thick ring package, whereas this has a much thinner ring package, which is going to reduce parasitic drag. So if my question is, if we're going to have to buy pistons to put in an engine, it's a no-brainer to me to put a good quality piston.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Do I really think that you could take all stock 318 parts
and put 200 horsepower worth of nitrous on it?
Well, no. I'm talking about blueprint, what's already there, and get close to 300 horsepower. No, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yes, it probably won't.
But here's the thing. Now let's talk about the cylinder heads. The castings that Tony brought down are 675 castings, which are probably the lowest of the low 318. Poorest performing castings. And Tony mentioned in his video talking about 302 castings. That is not what we're going to run on this engine. Charlie has the same casting numbers as what was delivered to us. Now, Charlie got those cylinder heads himself to do. And so started out with a port that was probably 140 CFM stock. He is now pushing 227, 229 CFM.
Yeah, it's real on the borderline of 230.
Yeah. And our engine build is going to consist of, we're going to put it together with the original intentions of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Other than the connecting rod and piston.
Yeah.
It's going to have the stock 318 two-barrel intake, carburetor, cylinder heads, exhaust manifolds, all of the things that's going to really choke it down.
Yeah. Okay, the main reason we're doing this is the proceeds, any proceeds from this engine will go to St. Jude's. We are trying to maximize that for in the most efficient way our work hours will allow. And it's not going to be by spending time doing jobs like this to everything, where we show you how it's done. Because you don't have to do it, but this is what's possible, right? If you want to build a stock engine, here's what you do. You go out and you buy a Haynes manual.
Yeah.
Right? And you put it back together and it will make about the same horsepower it did to start with. So I haven't gained anything. Doing all this here turns our rather lowly stock engine into something that's pretty sprightly. I mean, with the right gear in it, it's going to be able to do a 0 to 60 in pretty short order, right? Nothing like a stock motor. Now, this is not cost effective for Andy and I. Certainly isn't for me. This is. Why? Because this is not a hyper expensive rod, so a lot of you will be able to afford it, but also the manufacturer wants to be in on doing this. Now, if we show you how to do the stock one and then we replace it with a part that's bought, right, a better part that's bought, then what we are doing is increasing the intrinsic value, not necessarily the horsepower, but the intrinsic value of the engine. More goes to St. Jude's. So before any of you guys
and the customer or whoever ends it, they get a bigger bang for the buck.
Yes, and after we still on to plan that once we've got this engine and we've shown how it goes, then we'll see if we can put it in a car. If we can find somebody's car.
I've got one lined up.
Great.
So I'm really excited about this project. Now, people took issue with me saying the word "I don't care," and that still applies to this engine because David and I are going to build this.
We do care about St. Jude's. We don't care what it takes to get there in the most effective manner.
That's exactly right. And like I said, it's all about the end result. And I know that Tony said that he's going to do his own version of Mission Impossible.
We support him with that.
I wish him the best of luck, and I can't wait to see him get 300 horsepower. So until next time, this is Andy Wood from Unity Motorsports Garage.
And this is David Vizard from MotorTech Features. No, PowerTech 10. Oh, and here's the thing. MotorTech Features now includes the two of these channels.
Right.
So when you see either of our channels now, you will see that it's a production of MotorTech Features.
Right.
Now, combined between the two of us, we now have a mailing list, advertisers please note, of almost 100,000. A mailing list of almost 100,000. Think about that.
That's pretty impressive.
Yes.
So we will catch you later.